Hi, this is Lucas Soler. I want to show you some pictures and short videos of my Grove trip this last year, October 2021, including some videos and pictures of my last Grove trip in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. I started in Madrid, then I rented a car, drove down to Jaen, which is in Andalusia, and then I drove a little further to Almeria, visited my family, their grove there. You'll see some pictures of that. And then I took a train up to Barcelona, and that's where I finished my awesome epic trip. Hope you enjoy the pictures and a few short videos. This is Madrid, and it's early in the morning. What I love about this picture is my wife Heather always admires that in Spain they wash the sidewalks. They actually scrub them, and you can see that the ground is wet. It didn't rain that day, but they were cleaning the sidewalk. You can see that gentleman to the far right with a mop, and I don't know if he mopped this entire area, but he's clearly mopping the sidewalk, which is just kind of neat. It just makes it very, very clean. Love the streets in Madrid. This is just a picture of people having an appetizer during the day, just right near the Palacio Real. This is a churro y chocolate. Some people may recognize that name. A churro is nothing more than a pastry, and then that chocolate is like this thick, viscous chocolate that is just delicious to dip into. You can see I had a café con leche or a cortado just to the right of that as well. Once I left Madrid, I rented a car and I went down toward Jaen, and I stopped by this town called Baños de la Encina, and it was just so beautiful. I stopped and I actually had lunch at that table on the right-hand side on that terrace that you see here. And just the rooftop and the beautiful vista of the grove. This is where I started to see tremendous number of groves. And you can see how it just extends into everywhere. This is now in a town called Sabillote. This is the Castillo de Sabillote, the castle of Sabillote. This is also from that same town, Baños de la Encina, just using the drone to go around the city, or the little town rather, and just loved the little views and the bit of life that I captured. This is the introduction to Jaen. This is the castle of Jaen in the capital of Jaen. You can see the grove trees materializing, the beautiful church, La Catedral, the cathedral, and the little homes. There's the castle again. And this is a picture of just showing the majesty of and how expanse these trees are just all over the place. And I love that road running through it. This is again a shot of near the Castillo de Sabillote. You can see the beautiful landscapes that these trees make. Just amazing. This is the grove where we source our olive oil from. Of all the numerous groves and farms that I visited and inspected, this is the one that I liked the most. And so just look at the rolling hills of the olive trees. It's just so beautiful. What's kind of neat about these trees too over here is you can see they have two trunks, on the ones on the right. And it's rare that you see them with two trunks. These are older trees, and that's why you're seeing that. Now we'll see in other pictures they have a single trunk, and they do that because it's easier to harvest, it's easier to plant, and you can actually have more trees per acreage. So this is a bit older, and it's just a beautiful place. It's so organic. You can see the grass growing in between. This is an olive oil tasting that I was invited to by one of the farms. You can see on the table there's 6 or 7 different varieties, very different. This company actually does a lot of R&D, so they have a lot of different varieties of flavors. And in a minute, we'll actually see this one here, which has the plankton. It's Arbequina olive variety, and then the plankton in it was really interesting. You can see on the right-hand side the little dish where that oil is kind of poured into a little plate. The plankton was just so interesting. It tasted like Asian seaweed. It was just super, super healthy and very interesting. Here I visited some museums that showed some of the old ways of making olive oil. You can see here, these are clearly some stone wheels. They used to put the olives in this basin, and the mules would walk around and turn these round stone wheels and crush the actual olive into. In fact, on the picture on the left, you can see some of the mules that they used, and they would crush the olives, and they would put the olives into this little thing, which is nothing more than maybe 20 or so straw or wicker mats. And imagine they would take that paste that came out of the basin from the previous picture, and they would just put paste in between these mats. And then they would use this huge weight, you can see this thing on top, to just press that entire conjunction of mats, and it would squeeze out the olive oil. Pressing is no longer done. That was a really old technique. And so whenever we in America see on the bottles it says cold pressed, that's just a marketing term. They're taking advantage of the fact that most people don't know that it's no longer pressed. Yes, it's made in cold temperatures, but olive oil is no longer cold pressed, at least none that I want to taste. This is the antique way of how they used to separate the oil from the water, because there's a lot of oil and water mixed when you crush. And even after you squeeze and press that olive oil out of the olive, there's still a lot of water in there. So these basins, like the closest basin to me, they would fill it up with the olive oil and the water, and then the water would go to the bottom since it's more dense, and the olive oil would seep to the top. So the last, the top 3 inches of that basin, let's say, would have olive oil, and then it would go into that black tube, and that's how they would separate the olive oil from the water. And it kind of would do that successively on each of those basins that you're seeing there. This is a more modern factory. This is one of the larger ones that I visited. This is the entry point, one of the entry points where they collect the olives and they bring them to the actual mill. And so these are conveyor belts that take the olives that are freshly taken off the tree. They're dirty, they have leaves, and they'll clean them through a bunch of different mechanisms. In this picture, a different grove altogether, but you can see that this machine cleaned the olives and is separating the leaves from the olive. And so this is the residual material, the leaves that they're no longer processed into the mill, but they'll take this stuff and they'll process it somehow, or they'll sell it. In fact, even the pit from the olive, they will collect that and they'll make like wood pellets, or a combustion pellet that is used for heating. So everything is used from the olive. Nothing is wasted, and these are just the leaves that you're seeing here. This is a different grove altogether, and I was really inspecting how they were sampling the olives. And this is a bag that shows the sample of one of the olives, and they have a number that just identifies where it came from. But look how green these olives are. I mean, this is early harvest to its max, right? These olives are super, super green. The olive juice that comes from these olives is super, super healthy. Here I am inspecting one of the mills, as they let me do, and one of them wanted to take the picture, so I let them take a picture, but I'm doing nothing more than inspecting the mills here. Here's a picture from a different mill altogether, a larger one with the horizontal centrifuges that you see here. This one was more state-of-the-art facility, one of the better ones that I saw. This is a picture of me in one of the final stages of the production in the mill. You can see those are huge silos where they actually store the olive oil. And I just thought it was neat that they have these green lights all over the place here, because they want the employees to feel the energy of the green olive oil, similar to the hat that I was wearing. And that's why I love this hat so much, because it reminds me of that very green early harvest. I just thought it was interesting that they have the lighting to match that. Of course, whenever I do an inspection of the grove and then the mill, if I like what I'm seeing, I'll always finish with an actual taste of their olive oil. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm perhaps having a little too much fun here. I've closed my eyes and I'm totally digging my nose into this cup. But that's how you professionally taste olive oil. In fact, this red cup is a professional tasting cup. It's intentionally not transparent. It's totally red because the color of the olive oil is not that important in determining the quality. So you'll see either red cups like this or blue cups like this. This was a completely different farm that I visited. They were renovating an old cortijo, an old farm, I guess, and they're renovating it into a restaurant. And I thought how beautiful just this picture of the pallets that they're using there, the buckets that they're using, and the wheelbarrows, the ladder going up. And I can just so easily envision the people dining with this beautiful vista of the actual grove right outside. And on the left, in the corner there, that vertical metal piece is one of those old pressing machines that we saw earlier, that they used to press the olive oil. And on the right-hand side, there's a beautiful fireplace. I found this to be a unique picture because this is a server station. And so at every table in this restaurant, they would put the local olive oil of their favorite producer on the table. And I just thought, in the US, you see that with maybe some olive oil vinegar or ketchup or mayonnaise or whatever. And here they've got their top-notch olive oil. And I just loved when I received that entire bottle at my table. It was quite extraordinary. And I found this to be unique as well. Instead of the little ketchup packets that we see in the US, they have these tiny little single-serve olive oil, extra virgin olive oil packets. And it was delicious. And so, every meal, you can always ask for these. If they don't have the large bottle like I showed earlier, they'll have these single-serve packets of olive oil, which is super interesting. I took this picture when I got lost in one of the groves, trying to get to the actual grove that we sourced from. I got lost so badly. Google Maps couldn't even take me correctly. It was so difficult to get there. And I drove for 45 minutes, lost in these caminos and these paths within the grove. And I got out of the car and I just started yelling up at the sky. But at the same time, I was so grateful that I had such beautiful vista. I mean, I could just look at this for hours. And eventually I found the grove, of course. It took me a while to get there. And now I know how to get there. I dropped some breadcrumbs, so I know how to get back. But just beauty of the trees. What a great place to get lost in. Because I just find such majesty in these. I've got some videos to show you of kind of different perspective of a lot of these groves. Walking through any one of these groves is super majestic. This area of Spain that they call Jaen produces a quarter of the world's olive oil, like a quarter, and they have the trees to prove it. They've got 66 million trees. In this one, I just love the look of this tree. I was inspecting it for the olives and the olive quality, but it's so disheveled, this one tree. And every tree is different. It has its own personality, just like we do with our own hair, I guess. And this one, I just find such beauty. Again, you can see that this one has 2 trunks, which is an older, maybe it actually has 3 trunks. You can't see the third one. But this is an older variety, probably 60 to 70 years old. Has a lot more space between the next trees than you'd see in today's farming, but just such beauty. This is a drone shot for sure of me inspecting a totally different grove. You can see it's a bit more hilly, but again, you can see the beauty in the matrices that these trees make across the landscape. Here I visited this grove with a friend of mine. He's the owner of this grove and just gave me a little tour of what he was doing that year. This is, again, the Castle Castillo Sabillote. Just such a beautiful place. Pictures of groves in Jaen. You can see just how beautiful they are. This is one of my favorite shots of me walking through the groves. I just feel so grateful when I'm walking with all this energy from these trees, 66 million different trees. This is my brother Dave, Grove Master Dave, in our property called Los Duendes. This is 200 trees that we have in this farm. We don't source any olive oil from here, bring it to the States, because it's frankly just not the level of quality that I want to bring over to the U.S. This is a little town called Ulela. I just loved how it kind of sat here in the middle of nowhere, so I took that picture. And now these pictures are of when I went to Barcelona. I took a train from southern Spain and went to Barcelona. This is probably one of my favorite plazas. And I'm sure I don't have to say why, but here I am having a café con leche in vaso largo in a tall glass, and just love how tranquil and peaceful it was. This is a picture I took of someone clearly working for Google Maps, and he turned around soon after that. I guess he wasn't crossing the street, came back to me and saw that I was recording him, and he told me that it was illegal to take his picture. I was like, but I'm in public. And he's like, well, yes, but there's intellectual property and we don't want anybody to see it, so it's illegal. And I said to him, well, when I don't want people to see my hair, whenever I've got a bedhead, I just don't go out to the street. And it's that easy. Like if you don't want me to see your technology, maybe you shouldn't be walking out on the sidewalk. So that was interesting. More pictures of Barcelona. This is the area called El Born, which is where I stayed. It's the Gothic area of Barcelona. I just love this entire area, these tiny alleys that take you all over the place. You can get lost for hours, but at the same time, you're never really too far away. It's just super beautiful. I took this picture because these are the stairs of the place where I was staying, and you can see the curvature of the stairs. That's because of how old those steps are, that they've been worn. That's marble. The material is marble, but you can see they've been worn from all the walking over the hundreds and thousands of years that these stairs, those marble stairs, have been there. It's actually worn out the stone from all the steps. I just found it to be so beautiful. This is a café con leche that I was having in El Born, one of my favorite places that offered brown sugar and oat milk in my coffee, and I just loved the little heart that they gave me, right? So just beautiful place. This is a different day that I went to the same place where I had this concoction of smoothie and peanut butter and all these delicious dried fruit and bananas and all that good stuff. And of course, accompanied by a beautiful book called Modernismo, which is architecture of Barcelona, architects like Gaudí and many others that really created the city in the late 1800s and made it such a beautiful place. Here I was just having a little Rioja down in Las Ramblas, and took a picture of it because it was such a content. I was so content in this moment. Nothing much to it. This is back in that plaza that I love so much, where I was having a coffee earlier. This is just in the evening. I'm sure you recognize this. This is the Arc de Triomphe, the Arc Triumph, and in Barcelona, and just loved walking through here. I would walk all day long in Barcelona. When I wasn't visiting family, I was just walking. I think one day I walked like 12 miles. No joke, 12 miles. I just love walking and seeing the people. It's so cosmopolitan. It never got old for me. And this is the last picture. This is my favorite picture. It's Casa Batlló by Gaudí. Gaudí was the architect. It is my favorite window in the world. I had the fortune of actually going inside one year, maybe 12 years ago, when I was just gallivanting around the street. The furniture, the inside of this place is equally beautiful as the outside. It's not just the facade. The inside is just magnificent. And it's actual museum now, so you can go there and buy tickets and go visit it. And I totally recommend it. Again, loved this trip. It was quite beautiful. If any of you ever want to go to Barcelona, to the Groves, to Jaen, Almeria, Barcelona, or Madrid, let me know. I'd be so happy to share with you some of these spots that I went to if any of them interest you. Hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.